What if I told you the first step to successful homeschooling and world schooling is not schooling at all? Sounds ridiculous, right? Well, buckle up because we're about to go on a journey into the fascinating concept of deschooling.
We just wanna travel the world, the world, the world, travel the world.
Hey there, curious minds. Welcome to Our Offbeat Life, the podcast where we explore the road less traveled in education and lifestyle. I'm your host, David, and today we're exploring the concept that's been making waves in the alternative education world: deschooling. Now you might be wondering, what on earth is deschooling? Well, think of it as hitting the reset button on education. It's like a detox period for your brain and your kids' brains after being in the traditional school system. Deschooling is that crucial transition period when a student leaves the conventional education system to adapt to learning at home. It's not just about changing where learning happens, it's about shifting the entire mindset around education. See, during this time, kids are encouraged to let go of all of those ingrained norms and exceptions they've picked up from their time in private or public schools. Things like rigid schedules, standardized testing, or even the idea that learning only happens at certain times or in certain ways. Heck, this is probably the first time they've been able to use the bathroom whenever they want to, so their entire lives have changed. See, it's not just some new age fad that popped up overnight. The concept of deschooling has been around in some serious intellectual roots. It was coined by Austrian philosopher Ivan Illich back in the 1970s. Illich wasn't a big fan of the traditional school system. He thought it needed a serious makeover. Around the same time, a New York City school teacher named John Holt was having similar thoughts. Both Illich and Holt were convinced that schools were not the only places where kids could get the knowledge and skills they needed to succeed in life. Illich argued that schools often had a hidden curriculum that puts grades and accreditation above essential skills like budgeting or avoiding credit card debt. All right, I came up with those, but Illich was on to something. He thought modern schooling was more about expanding school as an industrial system, which might actually hurt genuine learning. If you're nodding along thinking, yeah, that sounds about right, then you're in good company. Many parents today are feeling the same way, including me and my wife, which is why concepts like deschooling, homeschooling, and unschooling are gaining traction. So, what does deschooling actually look like in practice? Well, picture this. Your kid has just left the school system. They might sleep in, binge watch TV, or play video games all day. And you know what? That's okay. Don't panic. This is all part of the process. When we first started deschooling, our son dove head first into Minecraft and Roblox. I'll admit it, at first I was a bit worried, but passion for gaming has led him to explore coding and video game development. See, the deschooling process typically goes through several stages. Let's go ahead and break them down really quick. First and foremost is recovering and healing. So at first, kids might need to recover from the school environment. They might sleep in more, avoid structured learning, and turn to comfort activities like Netflix binging, SpongeBob, or something like that. Now, number two, we have rediscovering interests. So as time goes on, they might start feeling bored or miss having some structure in their day. This is when they often start exploring their interests and using their newfound freedom to learn in new ways that excite them. Number three is self-directed learning. Ideally, deschooling helps kids move towards voluntary self-education, diving into topics that genuinely interest them, like art or science projects or cooking, things like that. Number four, unlearning and relearning. Throughout this process, kids are unlearning the rigid pattern of traditional schooling and relearning how to learn independently outside the classroom. And so are parents. Keep in mind that you're going through all these stages too. Remember, this timeline is different for every child and every parent. A general rule of thumb is that it takes about 1 to 3 months of deschooling for every year your child was in traditional school. So if your kid attended kindergarten and first grade in a traditional school, they might need anywhere from 2 to 6 months to fully deschool. It may take you longer to adapt than your kid because you went through decades of schooling yourself before your kids ever came along. So you got to think about that fact. You are also going through the process with them. So your mindset might take a little bit longer to adjust than theirs. Now you might be wondering, why go through all this trouble? What's the point of deschooling? Well, let me tell you, the benefits can be pretty amazing. First off, deschooling is like clearing out the clutter in your kid's brain. It makes room for creative curiosity and that natural love of learning that we're all born with. You know how little kids are always asking why about everything. Deschooling helps bring back that innate curiosity that oftentimes gets squashed in traditional school settings. Deschooling also helps kids rediscover their intrinsic motivation to learn. Instead of studying just to pass a test or to get a good grade, they start learning because they're genuinely interested and excited about a topic. Like how playing Minecraft led my son to get obsessed with axolotls. So when we were traveling around central Mexico, he insisted we visit an axolotl rescue. So here's the kicker. Like I mentioned before, it's not just the kids who benefit from deschooling. Parents, you are in this too. Many of us have our own deeply ingrained ideas about what school should look like, often based on our own experiences. Deschooling for parents involves questioning these preconceptions and opening up to the new possibilities for learning. And let's not forget the most important benefit. Deschooling paves the way for personalized educational journeys. Once you've gone through the deschooling process, you're better equipped to tailor your homeschooling approach to your child's unique needs and interests. So, how can you support your child through this deschooling process? Well, the key is to think of yourself as a guide, not a teacher. Your job is to create an environment where learning can happen anywhere at any time. So how can you support your child through this deschooling process? Well, the key is to think of yourself as a guide, not a teacher. Your job is to create an environment where learning can happen anywhere at any time. So here are some practical tips. Create a relaxed environment at home. Learning doesn't have to be confined to a desk or a specific school area. Encourage unstructured learning. This might look like reading books or encourage unstructured learning. This might look like reading books for fun, visiting museums, playing educational games, or just having meaningful conversations. Heck, watch Emily's Wonderland together on Netflix. We've done that a few times now. Be patient and flexible. Remember, each child adapts differently to deschooling, so allow your child to adjust at their own pace. Engage in hands-on activities, things like STEM projects, maker kits, outdoor exploration, and music lessons can keep learning engaging and interactive. I can't tell you how many science projects and experiment sets that we've bought over the last few years. So support your child's emotional well-being. Be available to listen, provide reassurance, and address any concerns or anxieties. And remember, even video games can be educational. That's actually how our son learned to read. He needed to understand the directions and cutscenes in his video games, and we weren't always right next to him to help. so he figured it out on his own at 5. The key is to sit down with your kids regularly and discuss what sort of cool things they did or learned. Even if it's something as simple as drawing the same cat 27 times just to get the eyes right. These conversations help you understand their interests and learning process. All right, so now you might be wondering, how do I know if my child is ready to move from deschooling to more structured homeschooling or unschooling? Well, there are several signs to look out for. Number 1, enthusiasm for learning. When your child starts talking excitedly about things that they learned at home, that is a great sign. Number 2, curiosity and exploration. If your child is becoming more curious about the world around them and actively exploring new interests, they're on the right track. Number 3, overcoming boredom. Instead of complaining about being bored, do they find creative, productive ways to occupy themselves? Number 4, taking initiative. When your child starts taking the lead in their learning process, showing independence and willingness to explore new topics or skills, that's a clear sign that they are ready. Like when our son started suggesting that we use the Seek app to identify plants and animals out and about instead of us doing it. Number 5, readiness for structure. If your child starts setting their own goals, planning projects, or engaging in focused educational tasks, they've likely completed the deschooling process. So number 6, you want to watch for that spark in your kid's eyes. When they talk about something that they've learned, when they start seeking out information on their own, you'll know the deschooling process is working its magic. The next steps. If you're planning on unschooling or world schooling, just keep letting them take the lead. Give them the resources they need. If you're planning on homeschooling, start looking into creating unit studies around their interests so that you can check off your educational boxes in a way that still suits their passions. Just remember, school at home doesn't need to be workbooks at the dining room table. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Deschooling isn't always a smooth process. There will be challenges along the way, and it's important to be prepared for them. You may find that your child exhibits some confusing attitudes or behaviors during this time. They may seem unmotivated, resistant, or even act out. Remember that this is normal. They're adjusting to big change, and it's not always an easy process. Some children, especially those who've had negative experiences in school like bullying or academic struggles, might even show signs of depression or anxiety during deschooling. If you notice this happening, don't hesitate to seek help from a mental health professional who has experience with children transitioning from traditional schooling to homeschooling. Another common challenge is that children might find it difficult to adapt to an unstructured time. After years of having their daily lives rigidly scheduled, they might not know how to occupy themselves without that structure. Some kids might also show a lack of interest in engagement with educational activities during deschooling. This is often because they've associated learning with control, rigidity, boredom, and frustration in their previous school experiences. And here's something important to remember. The longer a child has been in traditional school, the more important the deschooling process becomes. Why? Because they've had more time to internalize the school system's norms and expectations. These kids often need more time to unlearn these habits and discover their natural learning rhythms. So what can you do if your child is struggling with or resistant to the deschooling process? Here are some strategies that can help. Number 1, allow more time. Some children may need more time than others to adjust, so be prepared to deschool for an extended period, even up to a year or more. Number 2, focus on interest-based, hands-on learning activities. Incorporating activities that align with your child's interests like building with Lego, playing educational games, or exploring nature, that type of thing. Number 3, ask thought-provoking questions. Encourage critical thinking with questions like, what do you think will happen if? Or why do you think the author chose to blank? Number 4, create a relaxed, supportive environment. Minimize pressure and keep the schedule flexible. If it helps, think of deschooling as an extended summer break from school. Number 5, observe interests and patterns. Take time to notice what naturally captures your child's curiosity and use this information to guide your approach to learning. So if your child likes cooking or baking with you, for example, focus on the math components to teach fractions. Or if they like art, watch some YouTube videos with them about color theory. Number 6, be flexible in your approach. Be willing to try different methods, resources, and curriculum until you find what works best for you and your child. We found that board games are a great way to build our son's analytical skills, but found traveling with a bunch of them isn't feasible. So we subscribed to Board Game Arena, an online board game site, so we can play board games together without owning dozens of them. Number 7, seek out professional help if needed. If your child is really struggling, don't hesitate to reach out to a professional for support. Remember, flexibility is key. If something's not working, try something else. And don't be afraid to seek help if you need it. Just make sure to find professionals who understand and are open to alternative education approaches. All right, let's look at deschooling versus unschooling. Here's a common misconception I want to clear up. Deschooling and unschooling are not the same thing. Deschooling, as we've discussed, is a transition period. It's about adapting to homeschooling after leaving traditional school. It has a beginning and an end. Unschooling, on the other hand, is a broader educational philosophy. It emphasizes child-led learning without structured curriculum. While deschooling is temporary, unschooling can be long-term in its approach to education, where parents are more intentional about giving their children the resources that they need to learn. So we'll talk more about that in a future episode, but some families may go through a deschooling period and then move to a more structured homeschooling approach. Others might find that they enjoy the freedom of deschooling so much that they decide to continue with unschooling. There's no one-size-fits-all approach here. It's all about finding what works for your family the best. The goal, whether you're deschooling, unschooling, or using another homeschooling method, it's all the same: to foster a love of learning and help your child thrive educationally. All right, as we wrap up, I want to emphasize that deschooling isn't just about transitioning to homeschooling. It's about rediscovering the joy of learning for both kids and parents. It took our son just a few months to fully deschool, but I'll let you in on a secret. I'm still working on it. Even over 5 years into our world schooling lifestyle, I still find myself reverting to a traditional schooling mentality at times. And then I realized that the leadership skills my son has developed in building a video game with his friends far outweigh the inability to do times tables. Remember, whether you're deschooling, unschooling, or using another homeschooling method, the goal is the same: to foster a love of learning and help your child thrive educationally. Trust the process, be patient with yourself and your child, and enjoy the journey of discovery that alternative education can offer. While the deschooling process can be challenging, the benefits from rediscovering the joy of learning to developing self-directed learning skills make it a powerful first step in your alternative education journey. So, whether you're just starting to explore homeschooling or you're a seasoned world schooler, I hope that this episode has given you some food for thought and practical ideas to implement. Remember, there's no one size fits all in education. The best approach is the one that works for your unique family situation and your children's individual needs. Trust the process, be patient with yourself and your children, and enjoy the journey of discovery that alternative education can offer. Now, we'd love to hear about your experiences with deschooling. Share your stories or questions on our Facebook or Instagram pages. And if you found this episode helpful, please subscribe and leave a review. It helps other families find our podcast and join our amazing community. In our next episode, we'll be doing a deep dive on road schooling, what it is, how to do it, and why it might be the perfect fit for your family's educational adventure. So don't miss it. Until then, keep learning, keep exploring, and embrace the adventure of education beyond borders. This is David from Our Offbeat Life signing off. Happy world schooling.
We just wanna see something bigger than us, to see and smell and taste something completely new. We just wanna travel the world, travel the